Hello YouTube, welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to do something a little bit different. Today I'm going to talk about a game from my past, which I suppose it's not that different, but I'm going to kind of do it in a pseudo-review manner. And that game is Goldeneye 007 on the N64. So if you see my recent packaging pickups video, I've been in a bit of an N64 mood, and part of that is a tribute to Goldeneye. During the Christmas I ended up deciding to revisit the game and see how it holds up today. And I was quite apprehensive to do that because back in the day, Goldeneye was one of my absolute favourite titles. I remember playing it at a friend's house before getting it myself. I never really played that many shooting games. I played a bit of Doom on shareware and enjoyed it, but I wasn't mad into FPS games or games that even were anything like that. So, I mean, I was into Mario, Sonic, those type of things. I remember playing Mario 64, Mario Kart 64, and really enjoying those in the N64. My friends got Goldeneye 007. I thought, James Bond game, is that real? I don't know, I don't see it. So I put it on, tried it, and played the first level, and was pretty much instantly hooked. It was just so captivating, and I very quickly found myself just playing and playing, and I generally don't do that. I don't go to someone's house and just sit there and hog the console or game or whatever and just keep playing. I played all the way up, I think, to Train on Agent, and very much I was like, wow, I have got to get that game. I don't even think I had an N64 at the time, or I may have just gotten it. You know, I didn't have too many games. If I had it, it was very early in my kind of N64 era. But I was already kind of going, okay, Mario 64, Mario Kart 64. I think I had Diddy Kong Racing was on my list, or was, no, it wasn't. Whichever. Goldeneye 007, I was like, crikey. These games, like, I hadn't played too many games, but every game I was playing was just like, yep, that is absolutely groundbreaking. This is the best game I've ever played. I gotta get more. So as an older, I ended up really enjoying the N64. And of course, Goldeneye was the most unusual out of all of those titles, as I've already said. Mario, yeah, I liked Mario games in the past. Mario Kart, I like Super Mario Kart. But Goldeneye, that's weird. On top of that, out of all of the games, like, it started off as a SNES title and it was based on a movie license that was several years old at this stage. No one even really wanted to make a James Bond game. Even in Rare, they were kind of like, they're the new guys, they're the new team, you know, whatever. Just, you know, we want to work in Banjo. We go and play with your Goldeneye, whatever. So in many ways, Goldeneye shouldn't have worked. And yet, it ended up coming out to rapturous reception. And quite rightly so, because it completely transformed the face of first-person shooters, especially for console gamers. It's hard to forget, it's easy to forget just what impact it had. At the time, like, yeah, you had Doom, you had Quake, you had a few other games on PC, but really on console, you were getting ports, but they were always felt like the kind of step down experience. You didn't have any experience that would say, oh, this shows that this genre can absolutely excel and you can do your own thing on a console. And what Rare did with Goldeneye was, so absolutely, not only can we do this, but we can start to do things that, you know, go beyond the Dooms and the Quakes. No, I love those games too, by the way, but just as an example, you play through the game on Agent, you very much immediately become aware of the type of differences in the game mechanics. You can go running in, shooting everything, but initially you'll probably die, because there's a more measured approach to the gameplay. When you get good, you can run in and kill everything, just running, gunning. But it does try and encourage a kind of a more stealthy approach at times. I wouldn't call it a stealth game, but more thinking about and trying to lure your enemies and trick them into certain scenarios, also rewarding things like headshots or, you know, body placement shots that the enemies react very specifically, which was another very innovative feature for the time. Shoot them in the arm, they'll move their arm, grab their arm. Shoot them in the head, they'll probably go down straight away. Of course, you can have a lot of fun with that. Shoot them in the ass and they start jumping up holding their ass. You can knock their caps off, little things like that. That was funny then and it still is funny today. So he really did kind of say, well, look, this is taking things, doing things that are new in this genre. And of course, then you have things like the sniper rifle, which kind of feeds into that gameplay. And most importantly, I would say, the changing mission structures. And this was not only a clever way to kind of evolve the game mechanics beyond the Doom situation, where it's basically go from A to B, maybe get a key card to get to B, where it's more a case of having to perhaps double back over yourself in the level to complete certain objectives as the level itself, is adapted to the world of James Bond. And by that I mean, you could have to say copy a stolen key card, or you might take spy photos. And Rare were very clever in this structure. Each difficulty setting, Agent, Secret Agent, and 00 Agent, increased the number of objectives. So if you're playing on Agent, you probably had less to do. You could, in some cases, just go straight from A to B and finish the level. But it kind of encouraged you to play, because you're sometimes missing parts of the level. You don't have to go to whole sections because you didn't have to do the objectives. But part of you will end up, as I found myself back in the day, playing the game and going, wow, well, I want to do those other objectives. I want to experience more of this game. There's more to do. It's not just harder. It's not just give the enemies better accuracy, give them more health, give your character less health. It actually changes how you play per difficulty, which was really, really innovative. And perhaps most amazingly, out of all of the things that GoldenEye did, at least I'm talking about the single player right now, is it captured the essence of the movie and being James Bond, which up to that point, I don't think had ever really been achieved in a game, and certainly I don't think anyone expected it from an FPS of the time. There's very little dialogue, there's very little cutscenes, but what there are actually does fairly closely stick to the movie and moves it along as you would expect. It doesn't really feel out of place or go off on too many tangents. The settings are all true to the source. And certainly, as I enjoyed the movie back then, and I think it's Pierce Brosnan's best Bond movie in my opinion, that added an extra kind of an element of enjoyment. So what perhaps could have been, for some like a questionable license at that point, actually really helped. And they managed to, without kind of bogging down the game in unnecessary kind of FMV and all this sort of stuff, you got the world, you got into it, and a lot of it's just the environment, and move straight on. Now, of course, that's all solo player. I played the heck out of the game in solo player. Not to mention like the different difficulties, but I never mentioned the cheats. So depending on, you had to earn cheats. You could unlock them, I think, later on. The magazines give unlockable codes, but you could also just earn a cheat by doing a level on a certain difficulty in a certain time. And some of them were quite easy. So I think the first one almost everyone gets was level 3's runway mission, where on Agent you have to complete the level in 5 minutes. The world record for completing that is something like 17 seconds. I've completed it in, I think, 25 seconds. It is, even the first time round you play it, you're probably going to complete it in a minute or two. It's very, very short, and yet they give you 5 minutes to show you, if I can complete the levels fast enough, I get a reward. But yeah, sorry, I was going to say multiplayer. Of course, one of the biggest aspects of GoldenEye at the time was its multiplayer. It introduced 4-player local kind of death matches, and it was sensational. The amount of time myself and my friends spent playing GoldenEye in multiplayer, I would have no clue, but it would be obviously in the hundreds, thousands of hours. And GoldenEye was a type of game that it was, because the difficulty curve was so good, and because it encouraged replay, I kept playing it. Year after year I kept playing it. And not only playing it in single player, which I did, and I found it incredibly rewarding too. Actually, one of my best memories for completing something is GoldenEye 007, because completing Aztec on 00 Agent difficulty, that is one tough level. I remember spending, it was an Easter break I think it was, and most of that break I spent trying to beat that level, and it was just fail, 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 and it took me I think several days before I finally completed it, and I was just so overjoyed. Words fail me even to this day to describe how overjoyed I was at completing that level, and I'll touch upon that later on in this video, why that was, I suppose, or just bringing back that memory. But even when, on top of all the solo player, you would keep playing the multiplayer. So I played a solo player for years, but then we all kept playing the multiplayer as a group, so as you meet people in social settings. I was a teenager at the time when Goldeneye came out, and we played it. Then I went to college, and it was all over colleges too, so you kept playing it. So here's a game that came out in, was it 97? I'm going to check this up now. Won't see a date on this, actually. It was probably 97. I'm surprised there's no date on the box. I'm going to go with 97. And 5, 6, 7, 8 years later, people are still playing it. The successor console is out and people are still playing GoldenEye. And I kept playing it. I just kept playing it. I'd revisit it in single player, I'd play it in multiplayer, and it would have gone on for at least a decade. And eventually, though, technology does catch up. New experiences come out, you do start to move on. And GoldenEye was, for me at least, no different. Granted, I had played it for a very, very long time, relatively consistently, but I did move on. And in the last, say, 5 or so years, I didn't really pick it up again. I hadn't tried it out too much. Maybe I turned it on for a few minutes, but that was about it. And part of that is because today, GoldenEye has a reputation more of a game of its time. And that's very understandable. A lot of the 32 and 64-bit era is quite primitive. And I started to get into my head, yeah, I don't think I'd want to revisit that game. I have too many fond memories of it. And if I was to go back today, I would go, it's a bit crude, it's a bit rough around the edges, it's not gonna kind of end well in terms of my good memories. It's like they say when you meet that kind of old singer or something that can no longer hold a song, or meet your old heroes, all whatever those sayings are. I was kind of reluctant, but after playing a few N64 games and I was looking through my collection, I said, you know what, I'm going to pop it on, I'm going to give it another go. So I started back on Agent, and it was amazing how quick muscle memory kicked in. Straight away it was like, oh yep, strafing, aiming, all that sort of stuff, boom. Didn't have to look at manual, just it's back. Now granted, my level of skill was dramatically reduced from where it was, but I was able to pick it up and go straight in. And within a few minutes I was like, well, hang on a second. Yeah, this is obviously an early 3D game, but this holds up really well. It still feels relatively smooth. The graphics are primitive, but they're very discernible. They're kind of relatively clean. They're in most levels, except for a few where it's kind of intentional or it's excused because of the scenario, the surface levels. There isn't that much fogging. It doesn't impact on the flow of the game. The character models are all very square and blocky, but so what? Most of the time you're shooting the guys. You don't really, it doesn't matter that much. And even though they're blocky, the kind of key points, the heads, the bodies, they're all discernibly, you can shoot for an arm if you want to shoot for an arm. It makes sense, it's clear. And I suppose I was most concerned, I think, about the frame rate, because everyone, the N64 frame rates, they're all terrible and whatnot, and sure, this is no 60 frames per second, not anything close to it. But with one key exception for single player, and that's when there's a lot of smoke elements on screen, so from grenades or exploding barrels or rockets, the frame rate is actually pretty solid. Yeah, there'll be a few dips, but you very quickly find that the game as a whole has been designed around the limitations of the N64. It doesn't try and push the system more than it should, and I think Perfect Dark falls into that problem. So it pretty much works rather well. Everything is clear, everything is understandable, and everything moves as you would expect. Where there are slowdowns, the whole simulation essentially slows down for a few minutes until the smoke is cleared, so you're not kind of at a disadvantage. And other than that, it runs fine. And that leaves you with the actual gameplay. And the gameplay itself, that holds up absolutely fine. The mission structures, the difficulty curve is all very good. The actual type of challenges you're facing, the levels are interesting to explore. The weapons are fun to use, the different types between pistols and the machine guns. It can be fun to try out some gadgets. There's enough variety in what you're doing in the objectives. And I very quickly found myself absolutely captivated again. And it brought me back to when I first played it, probably back in '97, at my friend's house. And I was actually at the train level. And I was sitting there thinking, oh, I've done the same thing. I did what I back in the day. I just basically kept playing, and here I am at the train, which is the first kind of, it was starting to really get a little bit trickier level. I just kind of, it kind of just, as if time had rewound, and it was great. I started to die in the train section, and that was less great. But no, I did pass it, and it started to remind me that, you know, even on Agent, there's actually a nice challenge for those getting back into the title, and you experience some good, you know, good gameplay. I then played a little bit more once I completed the level, and you unlock the special. Actually, technically, I didn't unlock the special missions because I think to unlock Aztec, you have to complete Secret Agent, and to unlock the Egyptian level, you have to complete Double Agent in all the levels. So I was using my save file to just re-access those levels and play them on Agent. And yeah, Aztec is bloody tough. I died quite a few times on Agent difficulty just replaying it. I got by it, you know, eventually, but even just the very start of that level, you're in this tiny little alcove. You step out, and there's 3 guys with assault rifles and grenades throwing shit at you. It's like, whoa, this level was not messing around. And I was just thinking, I'm amazed that I completed that on Double Agent, because that is strict when it comes to health, enemy accuracy, and so on. You can't mess around on that difficulty. You had to be headshotting everyone and getting out of there. So, I was kind of relatively, that was a relatively good achievement. So ultimately, if I was to review Goldeneye back in '97, I would have obviously said revolutionary. Incredible graphics for the time frame, and they really were. Great gameplay, great levels, great mission structures, incredible longevity. The single player alone can keep you going between the 3 difficulty settings, the cheats to unlock, and you know, that would be enough. But the multiplayer on top just took it to a whole new level. That was back then. But even today, I think most of that holds up. Yeah, the graphics obviously are nothing in comparison to what we can do with 4K PlayStation 4 Pros and Xbox One X's and so on. But as a retro experience, it is solid. It's very playable. And that leaves the gameplay, as I said, which still holds up completely fine. And the longevity, do you know what? That's still there too. And even if I didn't personally want to revisit it, you only need to look at, say, the community around Goldeneye. Just look at the Goldeneye Elite Speedrun community. They are still playing this game at a very high level. Hundreds of people still play Goldeneye. They go on Twitch and all these platforms, pushing world records down every year, getting better and better at this game. So there's people who've played the game since it came out and are still playing it to this day over 20 years later. You know, you can't ask for more in terms of longevity. And I bet you, if you were to put that into, as they'd say, an American dorm room or whatever, you would still get plenty of people playing GoldenEye and multiplayer. You have land, you got all these online stuff, but when you play in a room together, and that's where the N64 excelled as a multiplayer experience, when you had Mario Kart GoldenEye, Mario Party Smash Bros, things like that, you're still going to have great fun with GoldenEye. So back then, it was a masterpiece. I was really afraid to revisit it, but you know what? Today it is still a masterpiece. I disagree with those that say, you know, oh no, it hasn't aged. I actually think it has aged quite well, much better than I expected, and I've played through it entirely again, so I feel confident in that particular opinion. I myself was not expecting it. I was thinking, this isn't going to age well, but no, it has. It's still one of the defining games of the genre and of its time frame. But anyway, I know that was a little different. I don't normally kind of take a particular game and talk about it in depth for so long, especially without visual kind of companions beyond picking up a box. let me know what you thought. Should I do more videos of this nature? There's other games I could talk about, but yeah, let me know in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, especially now with all the whole YouTube changing all their policies and whatnot. And we'll see you for another video shortly. Bye for now.